The dragons are coming for you, Westeros. There's nothing in here. That's just dust. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode, the final episode this season of Game of Toms. I am Tom Grossi. Thank you so much for joining in. We are now reviewing Season 6 finale, Episode 10, The Winds of Winter. A lot happened this episode, and there was a lot of setup going into what is believed to be the final 2 seasons of Game of Thrones. And it really was just... It was crazy how much stuff actually happened, but at the same time, you felt like nothing really happened. But we'll get there. We'll get there in a second. The first scene, which was done beautifully, is one of the scenes that we've been waiting for all season, and that is Cersei's trial. Now, let's get this out of the way. I'm still mourning the loss of the potential Clegane Bowl, having the Hound face off against the Mountain. However, there is still a possibility for that, but Cersei decided to go the route of let's burn everything down. Something that we've kind of seen coming throughout the entire season, something definitely has been hinted at in episode 2 and also with the wildfire. And also, this is where you saw Bran's vision as well. Like when he's downloading everything in that episode of The Door, you see the wildfire exploding down the corridor, which was the same shot that was used today. But before we even get to that, the show opened with a really, really cool, it was like just some beautiful cinematography, which I don't really comment too much on, of the Faith getting dressed, as well as Tommen and Cersei getting dressed, kind of just showing the differences between them. You had Loras, of course, confessing to all of his sins, and getting the star carved into his head, leaving you with the worst prison tattoo you could possibly imagine, and him giving up, really, his Tyrell name, which, at first, you're like, oh man, this is a really big deal. They have nothing now, but you have no idea how bad it was about to get for the Tyrells. But the Tyrells, they go through some nasty stuff, and you see the Mountain confronting Tommen, and there was a part of me, I was like, oh, Cersei's gonna kill him right here. But not the case, so Cersei's actually saving her son from this trial. Margaery picks up on it immediately that something is wrong, and she's trying to convince everybody, trying to convince the High Sparrow, saying, listen, Cersei's smart, and she knows that she'd be in a ton of trouble if she wasn't here, and yet she's still not here. But the High Sparrow being extremely stubborn till the very end. You also, this is probably something that's not going to be talked about too much, but Pycelle also being stabbed. He's no longer going to be the Grand Maester there, being killed by Qyburn's little birds, which were Varys's birds. And of course, the wildfire explosion. You have Lancel biting the dust as well. Sayonara, take care. All the Tyrells being knocked out except Lady Olenna, who is somewhere else. We'll talk about that in a second. And you have, of course, the High Sparrow being knocked out as well. And it was a crazy scene, and there was kind of like this medieval time bomb in which it was just like going down with candles, which was pretty cool. And Cersei, of course, taking a drink for every time there was a huge explosion. But the Sept being blown up was really, really a cool scene and an awesome way to start off the episode. And you think about it, like, from Cersei's perspective, you know, going back to last season and literally having to walk through the streets naked and, you know, being rung the bell at and saying, shame, 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 and how far she's come, and she, you know, vowed to get revenge, and Cersei is somebody who has, you know, kind of all these cards up her sleeve, and you thought it was going to be the Mountain with the trial by combat, but when that happened, Cersei decided to, you know what, let's go the burn everybody approach. Very Targaryen of her. But that was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. And of course, you saw the wine boarding as well on the Shame Lady, which was just fantastic, and the Mountain going to now torture her. But something that wasn't really, I certainly did not expect this, but Tommen throws himself out a window. I was completely thrown off by this and completely shocked because that was absolutely insane. And it was one of those things that Cersei, I don't think she accounted for it, that you have Tommen, who is a very, very weak character, and he doesn't really have a backbone, and he's very easily manipulated. it didn't really make sense that like Cersei would be like, okay, well, you know what? I just killed his wife. I just killed like the leaders of his religion and stuff. I'm gonna leave him by himself. So that was definitely an error by Cersei, and it cost her her son, which actually fulfills the prophecy. What we saw from last season, the very first episode, you saw like that little before the credits thing with Cersei when she was a young child meeting the witch, saying, you know, she would be queen and saying that she would have all these things, but all of her children would die. Cersei has nothing left now. She literally has no children left, which is like the one thing that like gave her, you know, one like ounce of, okay, I like Cersei, but now she has nothing but power, but absolutely no children to go along with it. So definitely pretty cool. We went over quickly then to the phrase, and there was kind of like some trash talk between Jaime and Walder Frey. But that wasn't the really big revelation with the phrase. The big revelation, of course, is that Arya Stark is back in Westeros, which was honestly pretty freaking awesome. They did the meat pie for Walder Frey as Arya chopped up all of Walder Frey's sons, put them in a pie, made Walder Frey eat it, and then takes off her mask and slits his throat. And Arya is a very, very scary character right now. And I listen, don't get me wrong, I love Arya. She's an awesome character to root for, and she's a very, like, single-minded, I'm going to kill the people that hurt me and my family. And Walder Frey being crossed off the list from the Red Wedding, finally getting what he deserves, honestly. But it's going to be interesting to see, you know, how Arya is going to play into the endgame here, because she is very removed from all these stories, and I'm wondering what's going to happen, you know, next season when she does, or if she gets reunited with some of these big characters like Jon or Sansa, or who knows, maybe even the Hound. So that was definitely a really, really cool moment. Seeing that. We also saw Sam finally making it to the Citadel, which was pretty cool. And you saw the White Ravens leaving the Citadel as well, meaning that winter is no longer coming. Winter is actually here, hence Winds of Winter. And there was something I noticed too, like when Sam is like checking in, and he's going through the library, he was a kid in a candy store. But if you looked at one of the chandeliers, it was actually like the sphere and the globe from the opening credits, like what the sun was. If you go back and take a look at that, that was like a really cool, like, I've seen that before. So just really, really cool. And Sam finally going to become a maester. I have to say his storyline is still pretty boring. I mean, it was not that I don't like the character, it's just we got other things going on right now. But it was pretty cool. But one of the big emotional scenes from this week was Davos confronting Melisandre about Shireen being burnt at the stake. And it was just absolutely heartbreaking. And you were wondering what Jon was going to do about it. But Melisandre is finally confronted. And while you can blame her, I mean, and she brought this up, that Stannis condemned her as well, you know, and you also had Stannis' wife and Shireen's mother condemn her as well. So I don't think it's all on Melisandre, and Jon decides to essentially just exile her and say, ride south, never ever come back. Kind of the Lion King treatment of runaway Simba, never return. And Davos getting in her face saying, listen, you ever come back, I'm just going to kill you myself. And that's how that's going to go. We saw Dorne again for only the second time this season. And I'm not going to lie, as soon as it came on my screen, I was like, no, please no. And I feel like there's a little because the Dorne plotline has not been received well. And I feel like the scene where Lady Olenna is telling the Sand Snakes to shut up and being like, what's your name? I don't care. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Who's a little fan service of being like, all right, we understand that you hate the Sand Snakes. We'll give you this one. We'll give you this. But a very interesting turn of events. Olenna already knows about her family teaming up with Dorne to go after the Lannisters. And Varys, I did not see this coming at all, but Varys actually going to Dorne, and those were the allies that he was going to seek for Daenerys. And by the way, Varys was already back in that last shot, so either he has the fastest boat of all time, or that was taking place at a different time. I'm not 100% sure, but Varys going for help, so it's going to be interesting that once Dany actually lands in Westeros, she may potentially have Dorne on her side, as well as what's left of the Tyrell army. So that was pretty cool, and Dany kind of getting even more support in Westeros as well. And it was also interesting too, because Dorne is the only place in Westeros that actually kind of rebelled against and didn't get trapped by get controlled under the Targaryen rule, and now they might actually help Dany take the throne. Speaking of Dany, she making Daario actually stay in Meereen under the guidance of Tyrion. Somewhere Jorah, if he's not a rock by now, he's just like, yes, I might still have a chance at her. Which was great. And it was sweet. Daario, kind of like doing like the Westeros Hallmark card. He's like, baby, I don't want a crown. I just want you. And it was like, aw, no, but like, get off my TV screen. I don't care. So that was awesome. And also you got the Slaver's Bay being renamed the Bay of Dragons. What? Amazing. And the conversation that Tyrion has with Dany, basically Tyrion saying, I was told my entire life to believe in this religion, believe in these kings, believe in myself. I believe in you, though. And this really touching scene where she makes Tyrion the hand of the queen, which was really cool. And kind of harking back to Tyrion's old job of being hand of the king in King's Landing, something that he was really, really good at. And he also literally, saved King's Landing. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when those two finally get to Westeros. Really, really looking forward to that. Then you had Creeper McCreeper, Littlefinger, and Sansa. It's so weird. It's weird. This is one of those things that I like Littlefinger a lot. I like this idea that he's a character that's come from absolutely nothing. He started essentially all of these events that have happened in this series. Literally everything. And he comes from nothing, and his aspirations flat out say, he's like, I want the Iron Throne, I want Sansa, I want you sitting next to me, and that's all I want. And every single decision I make, if that doesn't get me anywhere closer to that, I don't do it. Which is kind of hard to see, okay, so Littlefinger then did know about Ramsay and all the terrible things that Ramsay did. And so while it's like, oh, you're so sweet, it's kind of like, yeah, but you also allowed Sansa to get, raped and tortured and beaten and all those god-awful things. So I like Littlefinger, but at the same time, him creepiness is a little McCreeper. It's be like, hey, I had a huge crush on your mom, but hey, she's dead. How about you? Again, not really my thing. But we also, we had one of the most interesting scenes with Benjen Stark, aka Cold Hands, being seen for the first, potentially last time of the season. Second time of the season, but most likely last, talking about how the magic protects the wall. And I brought this up a few episodes of Game of Toms ago, and basically how I thought the season was going to end with the wall coming down, because since Bran was marked by the Night King, thinking that that was going to penetrate the magic, the wall was eventually going to come down. Not the case, though. Instead, we finally got the conclusion of the Tower of Joy scene. We have very young Ned Stark going up and seeing his sister Lyanna. She is all filled with blood, telling Ned that he has to protect him. And we see a baby. And that baby is the son of Rhaegar Targaryen, who is also Dany's brother, who of course is dead. But making Ned promise to protect him, they show this baby's face, and look at that, they just happen to show Jon Snow's face right after that. So you know what, even though it wasn't really confirmed, because I watched a little after show as well, it wasn't confirmed by the writers, I'm gonna go ahead and confirm it. Jon Stark's a Targaryen. It's awesome. Did I say Jon Stark? I meant Jon Snow. I mean, technically he's a Stark too, but mostly a Targaryen. This is a huge, huge deal. This is something that has been hinted and foreshadowed at since the very first book. And this is pretty freaking awesome. That Jon Snow actually is a Targaryen, and what is that going to mean? Does that mean that he's in line for the throne? Should Dany take it? Does that mean him and Dany are gonna like get together? Because the Targaryens like to keep it in the family, just like the Lannisters. I don't know. But a very, very awesome revelation, and one that has been waiting. I mean, I personally have been waiting for 6 seasons. So very, very cool that finally gets confirmed. We also had another Lyanna Mormont, the awesome, like, 10-year-old girl from Bear Island being a boss and basically saying, Jon is the king of the North. And now, before we get to that really cool scene, I'm wondering if there's going to be problems between Jon and Sansa, considering Jon was like, hey, listen, I'm setting up the old parents' bedroom. It's yours because you're going to be the queen. I'm not even related to it. Like, I'm barely a Stark, anything like that. So, at that point, I'm wondering if there's going to be a lot of issues down the road because, like, and the way that Sansa looks at Littlefinger, too, when all the men are and the houses are proclaiming that Jon is the king of the North, she's kind of like, hey, wait a minute, though. What about me? So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out down the line. And I mean, who knows? Maybe Sansa starts playing her own game and goes against her half-brother. Will be interesting to see that. But the final 2 scenes of the season, you have Jaime being like, honey, oh, okay. House is on fire. I mean, that's never a good thing. Walks in. And the first thing he sees is his sister walking down in a very, like, had like the Napoleon kind of like shoulder pads, very dark dress, walking up and being seated at the Iron Throne. Very intimidating, very scary, and I am very interested to see a Cersei who is just has nothing to lose at this point, but has a ton of power. Because her kids really, honestly, if you want to say, like, yeah, it made her human, it also was, like, one of her weaknesses. But now she doesn't have those weaknesses anymore, and it's going to be interesting to see who she goes after. Because, again, you have somebody like Dany, for example, with Tyrion. She wants Tyrion dead pretty much over everybody, considering Tyrion, she suspects also with Joffrey, but also killed her father. So definitely is probably going to want Tyrion dead. And now that she's going to know that Sansa is alive, the whole Joffrey thing as well, going to be going after them as well. So Cersei is going to be a force to be reckoned with, most definitely. And I think it's very interesting that she takes the throne, and she's also, like, at the very top of Arya's list. We'll see. Because, like, for example, I know people that want Cersei dead. I don't want her dead just yet, though. That's an Arya job, but we'll get there. But the final scene of the season is one that we've been waiting for since the very beginning of this show. And it is Dany with all of her dragons, with all of her armies, with all of her ships, finally sailing to Westeros in this awesome scene with an awesome dragon ship, by the way. The 3 dragons flying off. Really, really cool. All the Targaryen sails. And like I said, while this was an episode where it felt like, oh man, lots of stuff happened, it was a very, very big setup episode for, like, the next season. And I feel like a lot of the times that's what the finale does. After you have such a crazy episode 9, they kind of, like, hit pause a little bit and it's like, all right, well, now let's set up for the next season. And again, this is really, really endgame here, considering what the rumor is that the next 2 seasons are going to be shorter. I think they're like 7 episodes or 6 episodes apiece, which I don't know if I'm going to be able to take that. But the fact that they are shorter, we're really, really close to the end here. And it's really cool to see it all finally come together. So thoroughly enjoyed that. Next season, man, is gonna be insane. It seems like all the characters are finally coming together. Everything's coming into play. And characters that haven't interacted with each other in years are finally going to start interacting with each other again. And I'm thoroughly looking forward to what this looks like. So I'll give this episode a 9.0 after last week's getting a 10, but this was definitely a 9.0. We saw a lot of revelations come to pass, a lot of big movements happening, and a lot of setup for the final seasons that are coming up in Game of Thrones. Let me know what you thought down in the comments. I thank you if you've watched since the beginning of the season. This was our first run with it. I absolutely loved communicating with you guys. It's been a lot of fun hearing your theories and your thoughts and feelings on how this season has progressed. I'm going to do a few more ranking episodes, how this season kind of like went through, what were the best episodes, what were the worst episodes, and we'll take a look at seeing what's to come. But like, subscribe, share, do what you got to do. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Tom Grossi. And I'll see you soon, and I'll see you next season.